Here we are in our R terminal, RStudio, and we're going to revisit our mobile text entry data, but now with all 1,440 trials included, no longer summarizing, averaging over our 20 text entry phrases in each keyboard and posture situation. We're going to use mixed effects models, and mixed effects models have random effects and fixed effects. Linear mixed models extend our linear models, which were the fixed effects ANOVAs that we've been doing, but they can have random effects, which allow us to model within subjects factors using subject as a random effect, as we'll see. Then we'll move on to generalized linear mixed models, which can do everything that the generalized linear models do, but now have random effects and can therefore handle within subjects data. Make sure that you don't confuse mixed factorial ANOVAs, which have between and within subjects factors, with mixed effects models, which are about fixed and random effects. So let's proceed to revisit our mobile text entry data, but again keeping all of our trials. We'll read in mobile text trials as our data set and go from there. So this is data from 24 people, and previously we saw a summarized version of this, but now we're seeing all of the trials recorded. So here is our now very long format data table. Subject is in the left column. Keyboard is the next one, iPhone or Galaxy. We have 3 postures, sit, stand, and walk. We have a posture order column to check for order effects of our within subject factor posture to make sure that our full counterbalancing worked. We have now a trial column, 1 through 20. And so as the posture changes for the first subject using an iPhone, the posture changes to standing from sitting. Now the trials start over from, again, 1 to 20. And so we're going to nest trial in posture and keyboard as we discussed previously. Then we have our 2 measure columns, words per minute and error rate. We'll analyze words per minute with a linear mixed model, and error rate because errors are Poisson distributed with a generalized linear mixed model. Let's recode subject as a factor from a numeric value, also posture order, and the trial column as well. And we can summarize over that table and see here for each of those columns certain data as we've done in the past. We can also take a look at the data by the factors and their levels. So we have keyboard and posture here. Galaxy is a keyboard level and sit as a level, and we see data for our different levels there. If we want to see means and standard deviations only, we can do that here. So the same exploratory pattern that we've followed in the past. And that brings us to the histograms of iPhone sitting, and this is for words per minute. We can see a pretty nice normal distribution there, it seems. Same here for iPhone and standing, words per minute, and iPhone and walking. So words per minute is falling nicely into what looks amenable to a linear mixed model. That's the Galaxy and sitting, Galaxy and standing, and Galaxy and walking. We can ask for box plots of these, and we can see all the keyboard dot posture levels down at the bottom and their words per minute. It looks like we have sitting on the left here. In the middle we have standing. Those seem somewhat similar, and then walking things seem to slow down as far as their entry speeds, and perhaps a little bit differentially where the Galaxy slows down more than the iPhone. So perhaps we expect an interaction. And of course, nothing better tells us about interactions than an interaction plot. And we can see, because these are averages, it's the same interaction plot we saw when we looked at our average data for the mobile text entry study previously. We're going to load up some libraries that help us accomplish our linear mixed models. And then we're also going to load up the library that gives us the capital A ANOVA command. You'll recall with that command, we need to set some contrasts for each of these factors to be what are called sum to zero contrasts, but they really mean when we do pairwise comparisons, we compare each of the levels evenly to each other. So we'll go ahead and set those. And then we'll move into the test of an order effect. So we want to make sure we counterbalanced posture order properly and that it doesn't have an order effect working. So we'll run our trial, our linear mixed model, with keyboard as a fixed effect, posture order as another fixed effect, and then our syntax for nesting trial within those is to do a slash and then trial, that nests trial within keyboard and posture order. And then for a random effect, we use this syntax where we add the subject term like this. And that gives us a random effect of subject and fixed effects of the others. And we'll go ahead and build the model and then report the ANOVA asking for, the default would be a chi-square. We're going to ask it to give us an F statistic as is typical. You can see it takes just a moment to execute because these linear mixed models are computationally more intensive than our previous fixed effects models. Here in the results we can see that we have a significant p-value for keyboard, but thankfully posture order is not statistically significant, and neither is posture order interacting with keyboard. And neither is the three-way interaction with trial. So what this tells us is that we did adequately counterbalance, and the order of presentation of the postures did not, in fact, affect our data. So that's good. So now we can move forward with some confidence to do the linear mixed model on words per minute, which is, of course, the response variable that we care about. So we have the same model, but this time we're just encoding posture directly, not posture order. And we can run our linear mixed model with that. Subject, again, is a random effect, which gives us the ability to model the within subject aspect of posture. And we have trial nested within keyboard and posture. And we can see here that keyboard is statistically significant. There's a difference in keyboard, and we found that previously. There's a difference in posture, also found previously. And there's a significant keyboard posture interaction, all of which we discovered from our summarized data previously. But now look at our degrees of freedom for posture and keyboard posture. The numerator degrees of freedom are 2, and the denominator is 1298. So that's retaining a large number of denominator degrees of freedom that we would report in our F statistic. But don't be alarmed, that's typical for linear mixed models. Incidentally, you might be wondering, well, if subjects were sampled randomly from a population that we want to generalize about, and we don't care about the specific levels of subject, that is, the specific subjects themselves, isn't that sort of true of trial as well? Isn't trial kind of a random effect, possibly, if it's sampled from a larger population of possible text entry phrases they might enter? And we don't really care about the specific value of trial, 1 through 20. The answer is yes, that's a reasonable thing to do, and we can create a random effect of trial in this fashion as well. And in fact, the results are almost exactly the same. Often it's good practice to run analyses in a couple conceivable ways, not to fish for a p-value that you like and can report, but rather to see if the results tend to line up. If they do, it can give you confidence that you're on the right track and doing reasonable things with your analyses. I won't actually execute this analysis because it takes a little bit longer to run, but that is a viable approach as well. So in light of the overall significant result, the omnibus test, we can do some pairwise comparisons. So we'll load in a few libraries for that. And we can execute a pairwise comparison among the levels of keyboard and posture. Now, there's quite a few combinations, so we end up with a little bit taller output. And we can see here that we have all of the pairwise comparisons available to us across all of these levels in our interaction plot. And I reproduced the code here. If you don't have your plot up, you can rerun that last line and bring it up. So we want to notice a few things here. All of these pairwise differences seem significant, and they are corrected for multiple comparisons. That's very important, especially when doing this many of them. But here's one whose p-value is actually not significant. This was the Galaxy sitting condition compared to the iPhone standing condition. So Galaxy is the dashed line, sitting is here, to the iPhone standing condition. So the iPhone standing is here. So it's this point against that point. Now, we shouldn't just fish for interesting contrasts. We should have in mind ahead of time what are the comparisons we care about. Those are called planned pairwise comparisons. You don't want to necessarily just run all the comparisons and then look for things. It might be fine in an exploratory sense, but it's a little bit like a fishing expedition, which we'd like to avoid. So you should have some reason for wanting to compare these different levels. For example, at each of the postures, comparing the two keyboards makes sense. But nonetheless, we can see there are a couple points that aren't different. Another one is the iPhone sitting against the Galaxy standing. So the iPhone sitting against the Galaxy standing here. Of course, this is fictitious data, and it's hard to imagine we might actually see that in practice. So that has been our linear mixed model. Next, we'll go on to the generalized linear mixed model for analysis of our text entry error rate.